team today are all giving their first public displays at Duxford. Though John Higgins, who's flying the second of the four Chipmunks we see getting airborne there, the other red and white one, is now in his 8th season, I believe, of display flying. And the other two starting off in box formation, Howard Cook in the lead. John Higgins, the number 2 pilot, David Petters, number 3, and Paul, not Phil Green, as I said earlier, as number 4. They'll be staying in this box formation for an initial turn. This aircraft, a staple of the Royal Air Force training fleet, the Tiger Moth that we saw earlier in the hands of the Tiger 9 with both the RAF and the Canadians. But they weren't all built in Canada. Those for the RAF were produced by de Havilland's factories in Britain, at Hatfield in Hertfordshire and at Harden near Chester, which is now the home, of course, of a major Airbus manufacturing plant. They were also built by the Ogma factory in Portugal, and indeed one of the 4 aircraft in today's formation flies in Portuguese Air Force colours. So in they come now from our right, and they'll be transitioning from that initial box formation into what they call swan formation. And that they've done, so past they come in swan. Early orders for the Chipmunk were rather slow because at that time, not long after World War II, there was still a lot of surplus wartime trainers around that were perfectly satisfactory for that role. And of course, a lot of governments, not least our own, didn't have much in the way of money to buy new aircraft with. Plus, the Chipmunk gained a rather undeserved bad reputation for its spinning characteristics, but soon that was all put behind the aeroplane, and it became another great de Havilland trainer success story, just as the Tiger Moth had been. The 4 moving into line astern as they reposition now again out to our right. The RAF began training on Chipmunks after a long evaluation. First of all with the RAF Volunteer Reserve flying squadrons, then the University Air Squadrons, then the Air Experience flights. I'm sure there are quite a lot of people amongst you here today who, if you were a member of the Air Cadets before the mid-1990s, will have undertaken your, because of course opportunities for intelligence gathering in that divided territory, but actually had someone with an extremely powerful camera in the other cockpit, photographing the latest in Warsaw Pact military equipment. The Royal Navy and Army Air Corps used them as well. We'll see later of the sort of flying training syllabus that new warbird pilots have to undergo, because of course many of them will have trained purely on aircraft equipped with a nose wheel. So to gain the necessary experience on heavy tail draggers, or heavier tail draggers, they'll undertake that classic training sequence, starting up with the elementary tail wheel trainers, the likes of the Tiger Moth and the Chipmunk, moving on to the Harvard, and then on to the heavy metal. And this is a really good formation display that Howard Cook is leading. It was always a super display aeroplane, the Chipmunk. Some of the performances at Farnborough air shows of the late 1940s and early 1950s were legendary in aerobatic terms. The RAF has had a couple of Chipmunk display teams in its past, the likes of the Blue Chips and the Skylarks, and the last of them in UK service terms was the Army Air Corps Chipmunk team, the Grey Owls. And it's always a rather nostalgic sight to see a formation of Chipmunks going around the skies. So the 4 aircraft have now split to land.